Today, we are playing poker at Seminole Coconut Creek Casino, 510 no limit. It's an organized lineup consisting of mostly businessmen and entrepreneurs in the area, and I was lucky enough to get a seat in the game. I sit down with $2,500. Let's get started. There is a player who calls $10. I raise it up with pocket sevens and the hijack to 50. The button calls 50 and the limper calls 50. We're three ways to 6, 7, 9, two spades. We flop middle set. I continue for $100 and the button makes to call, but the limper makes to fold. Turn card 5 of clubs. Now any 8 will make a straight. I go back and forth whether I want to bet this turn card or check, and I decide to check and the button checks behind. The river card's the king of hearts, and I decide to lead out small for value, $125, and the button folds. In this game, every dealer change, we play a pineapple bomb pot. Everybody puts in $50. We get 3 cards, and on the flop, you get to discard 1 flop and then continue as if it's a no-limit hold'em hand. In this hand, I have ace, 9, deuce with clubs. I end up flopping bottom pair and a flush draw. I call a flop bet, I call a turn bet, and the river brings 4 clubs on the board, and I end up losing to pocket kings with the king of clubs. The first interesting hand of the session here comes when there's a call for $10, a raise for middle position, and I look down at pocket kings. I bump it up here to $175. The early position limper makes the call for $175, and the initial raiser calls as well. So we're 3 ways in position in a 3-bet pot with pocket kings, and we see a jack 10 6 board, 2 hearts, and both my opponents check over to me. I continue for a pretty large sizing of $275. The early position limper makes to call, but the middle position player makes to fold. We're now heads up to the 9 of diamonds on the turn, and my opponent checks over to me. I look over at my opponent's stack, and it looks like he has about $1,000 remaining, which is about a pot-sized bet. I don't really like the 9 because it does bring in some 2 pairs and some straights, but with kings in my hand, I block king-queen for a straight. I don't have the king of hearts, which unblocks him from having flush draws. The jack is not a heart either, so I think it's close between betting small here or just going all in, and with an SPR of 1-to-1, I decide to just rip it all in. I jam all in for over $1,000 and my opponent snap calls me, which is not good for me. With pocket kings, when he snap calls, I think he most likely has a set, 2 pair, or a straight, so it's not looking good for us. We decide to run out the board 1 time, and the queen of clubs comes out on the river, and I don't even notice it at first that I have a straight. Then I do. I show my cards, and they're good up against pocket 9s for my opponent. He turned a set, and we rivered a straight to suck out there, winning a massive pot. A crazy seesaw hand there. On the flop, my opponent only had 2 outs to win, and he hit 1 of them on the turn. We had 6 outs to win on the river, and we binked the straight. I'm not really sure how I feel about that jam all in for $1,200 on the turn in a 3-bet pot on that particular board, but I just went with it. I was way behind and I got lucky. Ended up taking down over a $3,000 pot here. We're up now $1,500 on the day. Another dealer change, which means another pineapple bomb pot. I bet $125 on a queen high board with ace, ace, 6. So I have a pair of aces. The 6 means nothing to my hand, so I end up throwing that one away. We go 3 ways to the turn. When it checks to me, I throw out a $315 bet. The button makes to call for $315, and the early position player makes to fold. Heads up to the king of diamonds on the river. It's gotten kind of sketchy. There's a backdoor flush. There's some 2 pairs. I just have 1 pair, so I check over to the button, and he throws out a $400 bet. I don't feel like he's bluffing here very often, but for this price, I don't know. I don't think I can fold, so I make the call. He tells me we're good, and aces end up taking this one down. Over the next hour, I pick up 2 pretty hands, but the pots are pretty uneventful. I have pocket jacks, I c-bet the flop, and end up taking that one down. Then the next hand, I have king jack of diamonds on the button. I end up c-betting on the flop, checking back the turn, putting out a bluff on the river, and getting that one through. And now my stack has grown all the way up to $5,500. I'm in the game for $3K, so I'm up $2,500 within the first 3 hours. You guys can believe me or not, but I'm under the gun this hand and I decide to raise blind to $35 before the cards are even dealt out. I get 2 callers and then look down at Ace King offsuit. Swear to God, I raised blind and somehow woke up with a premium, and it gets better when the flop comes out Ace King high, giving me top 2 pair. I bet $50, the button makes to call, and the big blind makes to fold. Turn cards a 4, I continue for $150. And he makes the call again, so I put him on a flush draw or a weaker ace. Looking for a clean run out here to go for 3 streets of value, but we get a queen on the river, which now makes any jack a straight. I check, he checks back. I show the ace king, and it's good. Ace king. Wow, crazy.
Oh my god.
Blind raise.
Oh, that's definitely making it into the vlog.
What
That's definitely making it into the vlog.
About a half an hour goes by, nothing really happens here until I peel back 10 of spades, 10 of hearts. I raise it up to $50. Cutoff calls $50, and then the big blind 3-bets me to $275. Now, this particular player in the big blind I've played with now for over a year. He's been an avid follower of my channel. Every single time he sees me, he tells me that he enjoys watching my videos, and I definitely appreciate all the support he's given me throughout the last year. I actually invited him to this game as well, so he's my +1, and now he's 3-betting me to $275. Well, given the fact that he gives me action all the time, I cannot be folding pocket 10s here, so I make the call, and the other players end up folding, so we're heads up here in position with pocket 10s. The flop comes out queen high, and now my opponent decides to check. Given the fact that he 3-bet out of position after a bunch of people called pre-flop, I put his hands on pocket jacks, queens, kings, aces, and ace king. So on this flop, when he checks to me, I decided to go with a $300 sizing here, basically looking to fold out equity hands like ace king, and also potentially get him to fold hands like pocket jacks that we're losing to. So it's like a odd bet here. It's like a value bet. Also a semi-bluff or a bluff, I don't know. But either way, I throw out $300. If I get called here, I'll probably shut down, depending on the run out. He then talks to me a little bit, asking me if I have a queen. He thinks that maybe I have ace-king, and he's really making it seem like he doesn't have that strong of a hand. So I'm thinking to myself, if he calls here on the flop, I'm going to put him specifically on pocket jacks. And if the turn card is not a jack, I'll probably try to blast off trying to get him off that hand. However, that doesn't happen. He eventually decides to rip it all in. I snap fold and he shows me the goods with pocket queens for top set. A nice hand for my friend there, flopping top set, taking down that pot. Over the next hour and a half, I really don't get involved in any significant pots, but there is a new player who sits down at our table in seat number 7, and he is action. Great for the game. He's bluffing a lot. He's getting caught bluffing a lot, but it's not keeping him out of the pots. He's probably playing around 50% of hands. He ends up raising it up here in middle position to $50. With king 9 of clubs on the button, I decide to call, and we go to a flop, which I would say is pretty amazing. Queen, jack, 4, 2 clubs. We flop a straight flush draw. He bets $100, and on this particular board, I think just a call is fine. And we go heads up to the ace of clubs on the turn, giving us the stone cold nuts. No other possible hand can beat us on this board. He continues now for $200 with around $2,000 left in his stack. Now we have to decide if we should call $200 or raise, and against very aggressive players who definitely have the capability of pulling big bluffs, sometimes you do want to slow play hands, but on this board there's so many 2 pairs and sets he can have by being the initial raiser. I think just raising it up here on the turn is the best idea. I make it $625. My goal here is if he calls and the river doesn't pair the board, I'm going to be going all in for the rest of his $1,500. He thinks for a while and eventually calls $625. So this pot is getting huge here. We have the nuts. Going to the final card, which is an ace. Pairing the board, which I think is one of the worst cards in the deck. Now we're losing to so many full houses that he potentially could have. He checks over to me, and we still have a super strong hand. We have the nut flush, but now we lose to pocket queens, we lose to pocket jacks, pocket fours, ace queen, ace jack, pocket aces. It's just a terrible river card for us, but with the nut flush on this board, I don't think I can check this one back. So instead of going all in, I decide to bet $800. We get snap called, which should be good, and we are. We show King 9 of clubs for a flush, and later on he told me he had King 10 for a straight, and we take down a big one here. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but things have been going pretty bad for me the last 3 months in poker. I lost over $4,000 in June, over $15,000 in July, and then I made back $4,000 in August. So 3 months of work, 3 months of grinding, and I'm still down $15,000 playing poker, which is not fun, but it is fun to finally win some big pots. So far today, we have over a $6,000 stack, profiting over $3,000 with just about 2 hours left to play. I've been playing for over 6 hours and haven't gotten aces until now. The straddle's on the button. I make it 75 and the straddler makes the call. We see a pretty awful flop of 4, 5, 6. Very wet and connected. I decide to check. The button bets $100 and I check call. Turn 3, another terrible card. I check, but he decides to check this one back. River card pairs the board. I lead out for $175. The button calls, and aces are good. This is quickly becoming one of those dream poker sessions where everything is just going your way. You put out a bluff and they fold. You get pocket aces and you end up holding. You make a flush. You get paid off. We're up over $3,000 in 6 hours, but unfortunately, that is all about to change very, very quickly. A couple players have busted out and some other players have left, so we're playing six-handed now, and I'm under the gun and look down at 6-9 suited and raise to $35. I know it's not the best play. It's very loose, but I'm trying to get in there, trying to give some action. Let's play some pots. The small blind calls and the big blind calls. 3 ways to 10, 6, 4, 2 diamonds. With second pair, I bet out $100. Small blind, who has definitely been giving some action all day, check raises to $300. Now, just about 2 orbits ago, this particular player check raised me with a medium strength hand, which means I don't want to be folding my second pair just yet. I decide to make the call for $200, evaluate what happens on the turn, and we improve to 2 pair. It's the 9 of diamonds. He decides to check over to me. The flush draw gets there, but we now have 2 pair. If he has a 10x hand, I don't think he's ever folding, so I bet out a $350 bet, and now something very weird happens. He check raises me again to $700, so a check raise on the flop, and then now a double check raise here on the turn. We're sitting here with not even top 2 pair, but we're only facing a min raise. He has over $6,000 in his stack. I have over $6,000 in my stack. I don't think I can fold here just yet, so I make the call, going to the river in a big pot, and it's the jack of clubs. So unfortunately, we do not improve to a full house. I'm somewhat expecting my opponent to check again to me because he's already check raised me twice, but that doesn't happen. He elects to take his option to bet $800. So we're in a nasty spot here. This whole hand is just super confusing. When he bets this river, he's saying he has a flush. Now, would a flush draw check raise to flop and then check when they got there on the turn? It is possible. When he double check raises the turn, he's basically only representing a flush. And in poker, when someone's representing such a narrow range of hands, sometimes I tend to just call more. If the board didn't run out so scary and he was betting large with a wide range of hands, I would consider folding. But on this particular board run out, facing a double check raise and a big bet on the river, he's saying he has the ace high flush or the king high flush or a bluff. Now there is some potential bluffs he can have, maybe ace 10 with the ace of diamonds, king 10 with the king of diamonds. I don't know what to do, but eventually I decide to call. And the bad news gets shown to us. King 4 of diamonds for a pair and a flush draw on the flop, a flush on the turn, and a donkey paying him off on the river. My opponent in seat number 9 makes the vlog and wins a big pot. I'm not gonna lie, that hand got me pretty steamed up. I'm really just annoyed with the way I played it. I think I played it pretty terribly. Obviously, pre-flop is questionable. Calling the check raise on the flop, probably not the best idea. Calling the double min check raise on the turn is just always the nuts. And then when I pay him off on the river for over $800, just don't feel like I was playing my best, and I'm pretty mad at myself losing over $1,800 worth of my profit in one hand that I could have just avoided by folding pre-flop, but gotta move on. Try not to tilt here. I'm still up about $1,000 on the day, and now a new player comes down to the table who nobody knows, but a couple people have said that they've seen this particular player play a couple times at 2-5, and he's definitely some action. He likes to gamble. He buys in for $1,000 worth of chips, then gives the dealer $1,500 worth of cash to add on to his stack, and immediately we get into a huge pot. There was a raise to $50 with 8-9 suited. I decided to make the call. The button makes the call, and the new action player in the small blind makes the call as well. 4 ways to 8, 6, 7, 2 spades. We have top pair and an open-ended straight flush draw. I bet $100. Player to my left makes the call. And now the new player, the action player, goes all in for $2,300. Holy crap. The other player folds and the action's back over on me. A pretty sick spot to be in. My opponent massively overbet jams here on the flop. We have a monster hand, top pair, open-ended straight flush draw. Would an opponent really be doing this and all-in sizing with a set, 2 pair, or a straight? In my experience the last couple of years playing poker, I don't think he would. A lot of the time people try to maximize their value with their really strong hands. If he flopped a big hand, maybe he would raise to $500, not just jam all in. When he goes all in here, it makes me feel like he either has a top pair, maybe a straight draw, or a flush draw himself. I just feel like my hand is way too strong to fold against this particular player. It's his very first hand at the table. He said he was looking to gamble, so I decided to rip my whole stack in there as well. The other player folds, and we're in a massive spot here, over $5,000 in the middle, looking to potentially hit a straight flush. My opponent doesn't show his cards, so I don't know if I'm ahead or behind, but the turn is the queen of clubs, and the river is the ace of clubs, and he shows 5-4 offsuit for a flop straight. Our 8 is no good. We miss all of our outs. No flush, no straight for us, and just like that, we end up losing over a $5,000 pot.
Oh my god.
I'm not sure if you caught that audio or not, but my opponent, after he sees he has the winning hand, says, "All right, I'm out, guys. Thank you." And I thought he was kidding at first, but he was not kidding. After I pay him off $2,300, he takes his chips in his hand, grabs a rack, and leaves. One hand, one double up, and he pulls off the craziest hit and run I've ever seen. Obviously, that's very tilting. It's also pretty tilting after seeing his hand. On that particular flop, my hand was actually a favorite by just about 4%, so to lose this massive flip after playing for over 8 hours, being up over $3,000 at one point, and now I'm down over $1,000, has me way too tilted to play. I end up calling it a night. Well, I don't think I have personally experienced a hit and run like that in my life. Pretty sick. So the way this game works is that the game runner puts together the lineup. We play together for 7-8 hours, and once the game starts getting short, they open it up to the public. Well, this guy sat down, the guy with 5-4 offsuit, and looked like the gambling type. They said he was good for the game. He goes all in. I call him with a straight flush draw and top pair. I brick, and before he even gets paid with my money, he's like, "That's it, I'm done." One hand. The guy plays one hand. He doubles up and he's out. I'm like, wow. Obviously, he can do whatever he wants. It's his money. It's a free country. It's a public game now, so he can do whatever he wants. But that just, the whole day kind of put me on tilt. But that last part was really tilting. I mean, poker etiquette-wise, you should probably stay at least one orbit, especially if you double up. But whatever, people can do whatever they want. Rough day, to be honest. Very tilting day. I think I get most tilted when two things happen. One, when I make mistakes, which I did today numerous times, and then two, I get most tilted when I'm up on a session, and then I go back to even, and then I end up losing. So at one point, I was up like $3,000 at my high point, and $3,000 for me is a lot of money. It might be for you, it might not be for you, but $3K for me is a good day for playing poker. So I was excited to book a big win, and then just like that, two hands, boom, boom, losing like $1,500 more with 6-9 suited, and then losing $2,300 with a straight flush draw, and the guy just hit and run, he's out. So I was too tilted to play anymore, so I decided to call it a day. I was in the game for $5,000, cashed out for $38.55. Other than the run bad at the end, and other than the hit and run, it was a great game. Shout out to the game runner Brian for putting it together, and to all the guys I played with the entire day. They were awesome, really fun group of guys. Really cool game. And then shout out to Seminole Coconut Creek for allowing me to film here as well. Doesn't mean that I'm not tilted and annoyed, because this is like top 3 tilted for me. And I've been playing poker for 4 years, and I'm like top 3 tilt right now. Like, there's not many other times I've been this tilted before. But, that's what happens when you sign up to play poker for part of your income. You're going to have to deal with bullshit things and bad run and bad mistakes. I played pretty bad today at the end. It's interesting dynamic, because I don't want to come to a game with people that maybe perceive me as a pro or a semi-pro. I don't want to come to the game and knit it up. I don't want to come to the game and play super tight. Not that I play really that tight to begin with, but I want to get in there. I want to play some hands. I want to try to pull some bluffs. I want to try to get into the mix with these guys. So I raised some hands. I played some hands. I made some loose calls, trying to get in there, which I may not have done if it was just a regular public game versus other pros. But sometimes it costs you, and sometimes you get rewarded. Some hands today, obviously the 6-9 offsuit, I would never have raised that hand in a public game, but I want to get in there, want to give action. Even the 8-9 suited hand is probably a 3 better fold, but I decided to just call and ended up losing $2,300. I don't know, just kind of nitpicking now, but either way, somewhat of an annoying day. Losing like $1,100, but it could have been worse. That's it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, though. If you did, hit that like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back next week. More videos for you guys. Until next time, I'll see you.